Hey everybody, I'm John Finn, and welcome to an unboxing and review. Extremely excited about this one. We finally got our hands on Teela, the heroic warrior goddess, or at least that's how she was known in the original toy line. You can see her here in the packaging. We're going to take a look at the back real quick so we can look at the beautiful artwork that's featured. You can see King Randor and Queen Marlena there in the background, and then here in the foreground you have Teela whipping the shit out of Merman. You've got He-Man in the background, and then some unknown dude there. Doesn't even look like an Eternian guard, but he's pretty badass looking, so I'm okay with that. Down here we have the cross cell, which of course includes the rest of the wave. Man-at-Arms, Evelyn, and Beastman. Actually, this is the first one from this wave that I own. I do have an Evelyn, but it's the 2000X version of Evelyn, so it's one that came out a little bit later with better knees and the more Caucasian skin tone instead of the yellow skin tone. And this one's more accurate to the original figure, where the other one is more accurate to both of the, or really all of the animated versions of Evelyn. But let's get Miss Teela open and let's see what's going on inside. Alright, first things first, we're going to take a look at the mini comic that's included with her. And this is one we don't have any copies of, because with the Origins figures, they all come in a wave. They will all come with the same mini comic. So we don't have anything from this wave. And you can see there on the cover it says Beast Barrage. And you've got Beastman in the background with He-Man having to deal with a whole bunch of beasts coming after him. And on the back, of course, you get the cross sale. And then when we open it up, you get a nice, fully 4-page little mini comic that has a little story that features all of the characters from the wave and a few from previous waves, even Adam from the Sky Sled. And we go through, and of course the good guys end up winning in the end, and that's the mini comic. Love these things. These are one of the best parts of the Origins series, that the modular aspect. I'm really glad they continue this tradition with the Origins line. But let's take a closer look at Teela in the package. So I'm going to drop that down, and we're just going to pull her out from her inner bubble here. And we're going to toss the carnage. Oh, landed in my seat. And we're going to look at the back, and she is tied in with those danged rubber bands. You can see it here. It's also looks like it's holding in her weapon and shield. So I'm going to get her out of this real quick. There's Teela in all of her glory, and here is her weapon and shield. These are, of course, just recreations of what came with the vintage figure, as the character in the Filmation series usually used a sword and a different looking shield. But originally she was meant to be kind of a sorceress type character, which is why she comes with this cool snake staff shield and the snake armor, of course. And let's see how these things look in her hands. And you know, they're nicely detailed. They're fine. They're just like all of the other accessories with the Origins figures. It's almost the exact same as the staff that came with Becky Lynch, as well as the Eternian goddess. Oh, her little arm popped out. And of course, these are as modular as the male figures. There is no difference in the modularity there, except that the parts can't be exchanged between genders. And there she is with her staff and her shield. She stands. Let's see if she stands okay with those things in. Maybe not. Yeah, she stands just fine. Looks pretty cool in that vintage armor. Let's take that armor off, though, and see what she looks like without it, because that is the Teela that most of us is going to be familiar with in terms of the vintage show. And it just has the simple clasp there in the back, and then it just sits over on her face. Oh, and there's a lot of nice detail in the back there. Didn't expect that. That's something that isn't really necessary, so it's a nice touch to see that they have a little bit of detail in terms of the sculpt on the back. Or that could just be from the machine, but it does kind of resemble a scale pattern from a snake, so there's that. And this is pretty soft, it's pretty bendable, whereas this is pretty stiff, as well as the shield. They're definitely different kinds of plastic. And here we have Teela outside of her garb. Looks beautiful. I mean, you can see the detail here on the cuffs. on her bicep cuffs. I've never really understood the point of those, except that they look cool. And then the detail on her costume is just really just superb when you compare it to the original figure and to the filmation version of her. Face sculpt's pretty good. The eyes are a little bit off center. They are to this side of her face a little bit more than they maybe should be, but that isn't really going to be that big of a deal if you're like me and you mostly have these to display or play with. Oh, I dropped her. And I didn't drop her so much as her arm fell off, and I was holding her by her arm. This arm seems to be a little bit more loose than the other ones, and actually it has a little bit of a defect. You can, well, maybe not. It looks like they're both maybe like that. That's interesting that they have these different notches, though. I wonder why that is. We'll go ahead and pop these back into socket. They go in super easily. Yeah, this one's just super loose. Just doesn't stick in there quite right, which is a bit of a bummer, but it's still not as bad as some of the Masterverse problems we've had with Articulation. And we'll get her shield and her little staff here back in her hands, so she can look fabulous. Boom. And I've got some actual swords coming. Oh my gosh, her arm just fell off again. Okay, we got the arm back on. Hopefully it won't come off again. Sorry about that string. I use that for doing my wrestling matches. Pretty cool. The big complaint I have, though, is just that right arm comes out of socket a little bit too easily. But overall, the figure's a really great figure. It has great detail. The articulation is second to none, especially when you can compare it to the vintage ones where the females had like one gripping hand and the other hand was just flat. It was really weird. And it wasn't like to the side. It was just strange. I never quite understood that. She has her shield, she has her little snake staff, and she has her snake armor. There is a new version coming out fairly soon. It's going to be a 2-pack of Teela with Zoar, which is the falcon form of the sorceress when she leaves Castle Grayskull. And that's going to be a pretty big figure, probably about as wide as my fingers are there. It's going to come with another Teela, and hopefully that one's going to come with a sword and a little bit more of a filmation-friendly presentation. But I do have some swords being shipped from an Etsy shop that's down in Huntsville, Alabama, which isn't too far from me. And hopefully those will be here sooner than the shipping estimates gave me, and we'll have a second look at both this figure as well as the 3 other female figures we have, which are the Eternian Goddess, Becky Lynch, and Chyna from the WWE lines. And it's Chyna especially needs a new weapon because hers just has the weird cone thing that doesn't make any sense with her figure because she doesn't have soft hair. She doesn't have doll hair. It's molded hair. Anyway, that's just me rambling. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope this gave you an idea of whether or not this one is worth your time and money, because you do have to look around a little bit for it. I had a gift card from my birthday last month that I used to get this, as well as the Sky Sleds. So I only paid like $4, I think, for this figure overall, which was mostly just shipping and taxes. But it's a cool little figure. It's well detailed. You can see the detail in the costume, in the accessories, and it's just good. And if you want to have a complete collection, if you really are a Teela fan, this is a must-own. If you're not so much of a Teela fan, or if you don't like the original designs for Teela as being, you know, the war goddess or whatever, maybe skip and wait for the Zoar. But if you are just mad about collecting the OGs, then definitely take an extra look for it. It's definitely worth the $30-35 that you might end up having to pay for it. And I was going to pay that eventually anyway. I just happened to get this gift card in. Let's go ahead and put her armor back on her, and it goes on much easier than most of the men's armor because you don't have to take her apart to get it on. It just fits right over her head there, and then clasps. These plastic rubber clasps are a little bit of a booger sometimes. There it goes. And it goes over her bun there to hold it, fasten it in the back, and there she is looking all cool and snaky. Hope you enjoyed this. Hope it tells you whether or not this is something you want to add to your collection, and I hope you keep collecting the way you like to collect, whether that's keeping your figures mock, opening them for display or for play. However you like to do is the right way to do it. And if anybody else tells you otherwise, tell them that you're going to banish them to the abyss outside of Grayskull. Till next time, I'm John Finn, and I'm out.